All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Doubleheader with Amir Keenan and Keenan Costain. And here's a question for the audience: ever wonder why you cannot buy any alcoholic beverages during the fourth quarter NFL game? Well, the answer is in this episode.
All right, Amir, we're back. Episode 13. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and yeah, episode 13. It's crazy we say episode 13 because this Friday be Friday the 13th, and we know we're also revisiting 2001 again.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And unlike I believe a few weeks ago, as of this recording, we actually visited 2001. And or actually, I don't recall that, but uh, I'm sorry, I'm
Uh,
losing track. Huh?
I will say we revisited 2001 a few times already. I mean, obviously the 9/11 one, and then there was the Ravens Eagles preseason game, and now we're revisiting December 2001. It's approaching Christmas, but fans are not acting jolly.
Yeah, Joey, they're not indeed. So forgive me, folks, for slipping up there. And without further ado, we have a few stories that involve a few controversies, if I might add to that line of subject today.
Yes, it is. And say some fans may lose their privileges to go to not NFL games, but any events at these stadiums as a result.
Absolutely. So, like as always, what do we have on tap today?
Well, we got the Browns who starting to turn the corner, but unfortunately, some bad luck's going to strike again. And oh yeah, I see the Jaguars as well. And I think maybe and next up, the going to be in New Orleans. We're going to involve this man right here, but he may not be the necessarily star of the show by night's end.
Mhm. Yeah. So, like you said, Amir, uh, 2001 Cleveland Browns. We're going to be talking about first. So, a day in Ohio. So, what happened in the Cleveland Browns stadium? Uh, you might ask. So, well, without further ado, We're gonna jump right into the pregame notes of this. So we have December 16th of 2001. That's, the time of kickoff is 1 p.m. Location: Cleveland Brown Stadium, Cleveland, Ohio. And the attendance of this game was 72,818 people. And the television distributor was CBS. And Amir, you recognize these two in the upper right hand side of your screen here?
Yes, I do. Gus Johnson, one of the very best, and Brent Jones, former 49ers tight end, and went from doing studio work to color color commentator studios in 2001.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gus Johnson, I believe he's he's famously known as well for being on the Madden EA Sports games.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Towards I know for a brief while during the early 2010s he did that, and now he's doing college football and called the game last yesterday between Michigan and Texas.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a random fact, but did you or random question, but do you happen to know if Gus Johnson does the commentary for the new college football game?
I don't think so. Again, I haven't played any of the college football games in a long time. But I do know he did the Madden thing, but someone else is doing that now.
Right, and I'll do some research on that after the show here, and for you college football fans, real fast, I haven't been able to play the game myself, and yet the college football in real life is back up and running. So enough about that. So we have Gus Johnson and Brett Jones that commentated this game. So Amir, uh, we have the Browns playing in the Cleveland Browns stadium. So, any guesses on who the opponent might be?
Well, judging based off of this magazine I'm holding right here, it's going to be their division rivals. And yes, I said that right, folks. Division rivals, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once upon a time, the Jaguars in the same division as the Browns, Bengals, Steelers, and Ravens. So, and Titans as well.
Yeah, yeah, it was a totally different time. 23 years ago, it's 2001, but yeah, totally different time. Divisions were different, not like it is today. So yeah, like you said, we have the Jaguars, we have the Browns, and we have a few um um previous notes to go over. So previous meeting for the was it the Jacksonville Jaguars
Mhm.
against the Browns in '01, a 23-14 loss on September 30th, and coming into this game, today's game against Cleveland on September 16th, they were 4-8, and last year's record 7-9. So, Amir, any thoughts on these notes for Jacksonville?
Yeah, fortunately, Jacksonville have been pulling on hard times since their appearance in '99 AFC Championship game. They got to a slow start in 2000, but were able to rally at in the second half before dropping their last few games. And then, fortunately, there was another slow start in 2001, including their first ever loss to the Browns earlier that year, which involved, they lost at home. Mark Mel got knocked out of the game by Gerald Warren, who hit him late, and then his backup threw a pick six that just sealed that game. Courtesy of David Hutchin. So just some hard times in Jacksonville, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's tough to see that, but as of today, they're improving. They're getting a lot better. They have a young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence,
Hmm.
which we'll talk about later on in our weekly pick segment for sure. But anyway, so next up we have the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns uh team of our of give me a pregame coach here said that their defense had four return touchdowns, three interceptions, and a fumble. Enter, they entered 6-4 in December, but had lost their last two games, 31-15 to the Titans at home, 27-16 to the Patriots in Foxborough. And lastly, their offense was averaging 16 points per game going into the contest against Jacksonville. And the record coming into this game was 6-6, and the 2000 record was an abysmal 3-13. I swear, man, English is so hard, and I apologize for butchering some of that. So
No, it's I know it's as you do this stuff, there's a lot of information to remember, write down. It's like I've had a lot of knowledge about this game, but there's always this prior to the game. It's like, oh, like, what was their record, key stats, and what have you. Having said that, I mean, 2001 Browns weren't expected to do much because in the first 2 years since they got reactivated, they only won a combined 5 games from Chris Palmer, hence why he got fired at the end of 2000, and Robin Butch Davis. And team improved on Butch Davis. I mean, defense pretty talented. Anthony Henry, Jamar Miller, Dave McCutcheon, Gerald Warren, Courtney Brown, who's on this cover right here, just to name a few players. And they even had very talented coaching staff. I'm going to bring it up. You might recognize this name, Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians, who coached the let's see, the Cardinals for a little while.
Yep. And speaking of Cardinals, I'm not sure you can see this on the screen. Look who's right next to him.
Oh, I can see him, but I can't really picture him out due to the share screen show.
Oh yeah, that's Todd Bowles. He was on that staff.
Oh yeah, Todd. Yeah, yeah. I definitely remember him as well.
Yep. And then they flipped the page over. Chuck Pagano and Terry Robisky. They were also on that staff, and Ray Hamilton.
Yeah, Chuck. Yeah, yeah, some definitely some familiar names that I'm familiar with, so that's good there, folks. But
Yeah, so Chuck Pagano coached the defensive backs, and then Todd Bowles was their defensive nickel package coach, and then Bruce Arians coached the offense. And as I say that, their offense was showing strides, but hadn't like hit their full stride under Tim Couch and Kevin Johnson, and just to name a few. Because again, 16 points a game, that's not really that's okay, but going in December, you got to start picking up the pace.
yeah, picking up the pace, towards the end of the season, crunch time, as they say, because you want to make sure you have an opportunity to have a gap going into the playoffs, having enough momentum as well. So when
Mhm.
it so back to this game at hand, Browns coming in 6-6, Jacksonville coming in 4-8. Things can probably change, right? When it comes to the record at the end of this game.
Definitely, and I know Jackson was going to have revenge on their mind. I know because the game they lost in September, but what Gerald Warren did to their quarterback, hitting him late. But Browns fans, this is a big game for you guys because guys are in position to go to the playoffs, and not only that, you've also swept the defending champion Ravens. If you went out and they lose, like say two of their final four games, you guys are in.
Yeah, that sounds but easier said than done for sure. So without further ado, let's find out, right? So
Hmm.
quarterback Tim Couch and Mark Burnell, and head coach Butch Davis, and I see a familiar face near the bottom of my screen on the right hand side, Tom Coughlin from New York.
Yeah, yeah. Before he was donning Big Blue, he was donning Jacksonville Teal, and did pretty. Things tailed off towards the end in Jacksonville, but he really put them on the map in the late during the early years, and to that being Tom Coughlin and Mark Brunell and Keenan McCardo, who Mr. McCardo is a former Brown before they moved to Baltimore.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But Butch Davis, I unfortunately didn't do enough research on him. So Amir, do you have any information or any background on him?
Yeah, he was actually part of Jimmy Johnson's coaching staff with the Cowboys during their early '90s run when they were Super Bowl champions. So he knows how he's been a part of a winning program, and so he knows that. And to know, I know recently he did stuff with North Carolina with the Tar Heels, so he was their part of their coaching staff recently. And then for Tim Couch, I know this was supposed to be his breakout year. First year is just trying to learn the ropes. And as I mentioned earlier, was trying. It was showing strides, but the offense hadn't quite hit its peak.
Yeah, that's a good point. And talk about Butch Davis's resume. It's like, my goodness, that's a really good resume.
Mhm.
But yeah, but hey, maybe the Browns quarterback, excuse me, can turn it around and make a name for himself. Because he, like you said, he struggled the first few seasons in the NFL and doing pretty well here. So, but without further ado, let's say we get underway, right?
All right, yep, and I see some here, and Browns fans aren't liking it.
Yeah. So I'll read this out for our or listening audience on Spotify. So the Jaguars won the coin toss and drove 67 yards in 15 plays, ending in a Mark Brunell 4-yard touchdown pass to Jimmy Smith to jump out to a 6-0 lead. Mike Hollies missed the ensuing extra point, silencing the crowd at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Okay, okay. Browns fans frustrated increased when their offense first possession ended in a Tim Couch interception, courtesy of Jaguars cornerback Jason Kraft. There was no scoring throughout the second quarter of the game. However, the defense between both teams, with Mark Brunell being sacked multiple times throughout the game, uh, which means six to keep Cleveland back in striking distance. So okay, you know, it didn't start out too hot at first, but you know, with the second quarter, there was no scoring throughout that time. You know, with a lot of defense.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, the Browns' defense was very talented. I mean, they had Jameer Miller, who would end up making the Pro Bowl. Anthony Henry should have made the Pro Bowl. He is high. He ended up tying for league interceptions. And you had Courtney Brown, who was showing some promise in his second season, and Gerald Warren, who they drafted in the spring draft that year, and David McCutcheon, just to name a few. But those the offense just it's still work in progress in Cleveland.
Yeah, I correct me if I'm wrong, but Cleveland's mainly known to be a defensive minded team. You know, I mean, think
You
about what.
are right, because I know a lot of their Pro Bowlers, since they can be activated, have been on defense. I mean, Miles Garrett, Joe Hayden. I know we're going to bid in the future here.
Right, right.
TJ
Yeah,
Ward, just to
exactly.
name a few.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I was really about to say, Miles Garrett, Ward, and those guys. In today's Browns team. So that's a good point. Okay, so yeah, but so back to this. No scoring in the second quarter whatsoever, but Cleveland's defense was able to keep Jacksonville at bay. So with that, let's fast forward a little bit to the second half of this game. So while the Browns' offense struggles continue into the second half, their defense knew they had to make a play if they wanted to get back into the game. Okay, with the Jaguars in possession to blow the game open at the Browns' 6-yard line, Henry provided the spark of the team that they needed to jump in front of Bruno's pass to Smith, returned it for 97 yards in the third quarter. But yeah, all right.
Yeah, all right, all
So
right. Browns fans got something to cheer about.
absolutely. So they jump on ahead. So unfortunately, the joy of the Cleveland Browns was quickly turned away. Ooh, if I'm reading that
Yeah, it was short
correctly.
lived.
It was very short-lived. To add up some more points on the board to make it 12-7 in the third. Okay, hey, Jacksonville had to do something, right?
Yeah, and you're still. I know they took the joy away, but you're only down by 5, and the touchdown can get you the lead. So it's like, hey, it's not that you're up by 2 scores.
Yeah, exactly. So the Browns defense made a play one drive later when defense then Greg Spires, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, Greg Spires.
Cool, cool. So strip sack, Brunel and teammate Mark Smith recovered the ball inside the Jacksonville's 13-yard line, putting the team in a position to take the lead for the first time. Unfortunately, the Browns offense could only net 2 yards in 3 plays. Guard Roz Verba was flagged for a false start and were forced to settle for a Dawson 29-yard field goal to cut the lead 12-10 with 8:13 remaining in regulation. So we're in the fourth quarter now.
Hmm.
So his last bullet point with Jacksonville went on a 14-yard drive, took up 5 minutes and 12 seconds, capping off the drive with Holland's third field goal of the game at the 37-yard line. They give Jacksonville 37-yard field goal. Excuse me. They give Jacksonville a 15-10 lead with 3:02 left in regulation. On the drive, the Browns were forced to burn their final two timeouts with their playoffs hopes on the line. The Browns offense that had netted 151 yards in the game, and at that point had no timeout and made up for lost time. So Amir, no timeout. They had to make a little bit of hay. So with that, what are your thoughts when you read this bullet point here?
Yeah, I just Yeah, because then again, for as much as talented as defense was, they were on the field for a long time. As 14 plays, you're going to get tired and have to burn timeouts because get some that way you regroup and substitute players and everything. And then as for the offense, and you have 151 net yards. I mean, shows you haven't done anything, and now you get a second chance because now or another chance because you're going down by 5. Grant time's on your side, but so they can make up for it. 'Cause you know what? It's 3:02 remaining regulation. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. So made up for lost time, 5 for 53 yards in the 8 plays for the Jaguars 12-yard line where they face a 4th and 2. Okay. So they have to go for it. They have to, you know, make something happen here unless or else they lose the game. So with that, what are your thoughts? What are your picks?
Well, yeah, it's 4th and 2. Bugle doesn't do you any favors, so you got to go for it. If I were them, you would throw a pass beyond the sticks, and then if it's inbounds, got to hurry to the line of scrimmage and spike it. Better option is to make sure you get out of bounds, so it'll stop the clock altogether, and run through, being you're at the 12-yard line. By that point, you'd be at the 10-yard line in the red zone. Perfect position to take the lead. So let's see what happens.
Well, that's a good prediction. So with that, final plays. So he takes the snap. Couch takes the snap from the 12-yard line and connected with wide receiver Quincy Morgan. Okay, at the 10-yard line for the first down. With the clock running, Coach hurried his offense down hurried the team to the line of scrimmage. Spiked the ball with 48 seconds left. Okay, here we go. I waited for the second down from offensive coordinator Bruce Arians. Like you said, Bruce Arians. Ooh, turns out the referee called the play dead.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense. He
Oh,
spiked the ball, and what I'm seeing here, they were, according to Terry McCall's explanation, but he was buzzed prior to the play, but all the time I've seen the footage of it, that was not the case. And Browns fans are not they're not gonna like that.
ooh. Let's see. Well, and the crew decided to review the previous fourth down. Wait a minute. So, what what I'm saying here is that they got the play. They were able to get back in formation before the refs were able to catch that, right?
Right. So yeah, he catches the ball, then they get to the line of scrimmage and Couch spikes a play, which is a spike is incompletion, which means they ran another play. So for any play that took place before that can't be reviewed or challenged. But
Right. So,
that's not what Terry McCauley's explanation says.
well, let's find out in the next slide of what happened here. Well, after the announcement by the main referee, fans were outraged. Were able to take a look at the previous play that was under review. Ooh, and bottles were being thrown. And from
Mhm.
what they've heard over the intercom, and Gus Johnson and Brett Jones were not really happy themselves. Amir?
No, because I remember Brent Jones telling he was over the TV telling his fans you know better than to throw bottles and stuff on the field, and Gus Johnson don't call out the officials because you know even though when they showed the replay, yeah, Morgan did lose possession of the football, but so that was incomplete in real time. But since Couch got him to the line of scrimmage and spiked the ball, that play should not was unreviewable because already another play took place, and even Butch Davis even pleading the case, saying, "Hey, we ran another play," and Brett Jones was singing his praises.
Yeah,
So the criticisms were just right on the money. I mean, Gus
right.
and
And I'll
Brent.
right, and I'll put the link into the description box below of the full of the last few minutes of that game if anyone wants to view it for themselves. But yeah, it's I think it's ridiculous. You know, just the these sort of that thing happened. Sure, Quincy Jones made an incomplete reception, but what? But once you get back to the line of scrimmage with your offense, it should be hey, next play, next play, next play.
Hmm.
So so the fans were obviously not happy with the game not being official or not being official. The field was in no good condition to continue. So the refs continued to head to the locker room. But I thought, once it hits 0-0, it would have to be an official game, right?
Well, yeah. So of course, after told the rest of the crowd that the pass was incomplete, they were amidst a chorus of boos and fans showing up on the field. It Gus Johnson and Brent Jones said themselves, he's not calling his crew did a horrible job of telling the crowd what was going on and getting things under control. Then by that point, the balls are likely they were thrown in the end zone onto the field and at the players and the coaches. And then right as she made them saying that's the end of the game, the fans got more irritated and they started throwing their stuff at McCauley and his crew. And it's like, why end the game? It's like it's going to end the game like that. That's something that I took away when I saw this way back in 2010. It's like that was abrupt.
Well, well, until the commissioner comes on the line and says, "Hello, Mr. Commissioner, you want us to do what, sir? Go back out there? All
Hmm.
right, you're the boss, sir." So the players decide or Commissioner Paul Tagliabue makes the call in the locker room over the phone. They want the teams to go back out there. So with that, both teams had to go back on the field after a 20-minute delay, where there was an angry crowd of Browns fans still throwing stuff onto the field at the players, coaches, and refs. 48 seconds still left on the clock, Amir. So, like I said, it's not an official game, and the Jags were able to make the clock run down to make it official. So with that, Mark Brunell took two knees to run off the clock, officially ending the game. The final score was 15-10 Jacksonville. And off the field once again, the Browns fans were not done throwing stuff onto the field at the people who were involved. So, Amir, you want to take a look at these pictures, feel free to and give your thoughts.
Yeah, it was just a disgraceful sight, and just because there was poor communication from the refs, fans were frustrated. Cleveland financial advisor got struck in the head by a Walkman, and luckily it wasn't fatal. He made a full recovery. But the picture in the middle sums it up. Players trying to get back to the locker room, and then he's surrounded by beer bottles and cups and stuff, and it was just a horrible sight. And of course, Commissioner Tagliabue was watching the game back in his headquarters in New York, and he says, "This we can't allow this to happen again." And also saying, "Well, when McCauley called the game in 48 seconds, he says can't do that. You gotta game's not complete until the clock strikes zero." You know, you
Yeah.
or
So
just a disgraceful sight at Cleveland Brown Stadium.
yeah, definitely agree on that front. And you know, going back to the referees, I believe in my heart, it was a bad call. They should have just let the game, flow out, play out, whatever you want to say. Um, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that the refs were able to control the game in a situation, but not like that.
Right.
So post game show, right?
Yeah.
Team
See what
stat,
we got.
you got to go through that. So
Hmm.
Mark Burnell, 20 for 35, 202 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions, a rating of 59.5. Stacey Mack, 28 rushing attempts, 115, longest of 17, three receptions for 24 yards. And Keenan, Mark Marcan, Mark
Ricardo.
Mercado,
Hmm.
10 times for seven receptions for 61 yards. Jimmy Smith targeted 10 times for five receptions, 52 yards, one touchdown. So with the score being 15-10, Amir, what are your thoughts on Jacksonville's side?
Well, I mean, Jacksonville took advantage of their opportunities. I mean, their first possession, they held the ball for 15 plays and got in the end zone. And then late in the game, they had another long drive, 14 plays. That was able to take a lot of time off the clock. And then, so yeah, it wasn't a pregame, but like I said, when I had any opportunity knocks, they took advantage of it.
Absolutely. Yep. So looking at the Brown side, Tim Couch, 21 for 30, 184 yards, zero touchdown, one interception. Jamal White, nine rushing attempts for 33 yards, targeted five times with five receptions of 39. Anthony Henry, two interceptions, 97 yards, one touchdown. And Phil Dawson, the field goal place kicker, was one for one, on extra point after his extra field goal was made. So with the Browns scoring 10 points there, thoughts on the Browns side.
Yeah, yeah, the Browns' offense had just been didn't get it done. And ironically, their best drive of the game was overshadowed by the Bottlegate, and and it came to abrupt end when Quincy Morgan's pass was reviewed. They ran another play and was ruled incomplete pass. And then getting back to the Browns fans, this was the last home game for the Browns that year, and then a lot was riding on the line, and you understood their frustration, but at the same time, it wasn't work. The safety of everyone in the stadium.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. It was the last home game of that season, for Cleveland, and it's unfortunate. So I bet there's more to the story, and there is opinions and
Mhm.
interviews. Head coach Jacksonville, Tom Coughlin, Butch Davis, who sustained a cut on his knee from a glass bottle. Ah, that hurt. So
Yeah.
yeah, with all those glass balls being thrown and all those artifacts and what have you, definitely not a good sight.
Mm-mm.
So Jimmy Smith, wide receiver, had this to say right after the game occurred. So quote, "We feel for our lives," Jacksonville wide receiver Jimmy Smith said. "We were just trying to dodge as many beer bottles as we could." So plain and simple there. Amir, Jimmy
Yeah,
Smith.
he was right about that. And trying to find the Butch Davis's quote from that game. Say, my Wix article's is acting up a little slow. What you doing? What are you doing, Wix? Why you got act slow on me now? But yeah, Coughlin chimed in as well that what happened, because his team was affected as well, because they're throwing bottles onto the field and at his players, as we saw in the picture above, in the previous slide. He said that's just not. I think he was one line said that's not football. That's just awful.
Yeah, but I want to take a look at this audio clip here that I have right in front of me. So Cameron Cameron policy, or if I'm saying that right, Cameron policy,
Current policy.
Carmen policy. Excuse me. Reacted to the Bottlegate catastrophe, and I want to take a look at two people that is going to be part of this audio clip. here. So without further ado, let's let's have a listen.
No one got hurt, to my knowledge at least. No one got hurt. I've seen snowballs flying in New England. I've seen snowballs flying at the Meadowlands at Giants games. I've been involved in a football game where a snowball disrupted a field goal attempt that could have meant the difference in a game. So, I mean, I don't think that Cleveland's going to take a black eye over this.
It wasn't pleasant. I wouldn't suggest anything like that. But it wasn't World War III. I mean, there's a very emotional situation.
I like the fact that our fans cared that much. I have to tell
Did you see anything flying
they care about their team and they cared about this game.
So they care about our team and they cared about this game. That was a really good soundbite, from Al Lenore and Carmen Policy, the president and the team's owners. So, uh, Amir, what are your thoughts when you hear those opinions and quotes from those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, I know, yeah, fans, I get they care, but I understand their frustration. But now, unfortunately, they end up ending the lives of everyone in the stadium, and may it cost them chance to ever attend any events at the stadium, not just football games, but concerts, conventions, what have you. And we met in Paul from Carbon Policy's comments. The snowball incident he's referring to was when he's with the 49ers in the 1980s against the Broncos, where they were throwing snowballs on the field as the Niners were trying to get a goal, no, make an extra point, excuse me. And unfortunately, that played different in that game, and that and threatened to take to his players on the Broncos. And then for Al Lerner, one that his World War III reference really takes is what really stood out because think about this: 2001, and 2 months earlier there was the 9/11 attacks, and afterwards there's this whole there was talks underway about going to war, and it's not like say the Gulf War, Persian War. It looks like we might be headed toward World War III. Like this is actually like in the midst of all of this, when this is going on, I thought that comment was just, I thought very poor timing on his part.
Yeah. So, I get the Browns fans or any type of fan in the NFL that have a passion for the game, but just to act like that is completely outrageous. And I have this quote down here from Mister Butch Davis himself. So I've never seen a game, heard of a game anything like this. It's disappointing. It hurts our players as much as Jeffrey's as theirs. So Amir, you're absolutely right.
Mhm.
Just to
Yeah, he's
see,
referring to both the Jaguars and the Browns, and then I found the one for Tom Coughlin on Wix article, and he said it was like dodging. He said that was bad. That is not football, and he was correct on that because again, his players and coach staff was on. They were involved in this as well because they couldn't got they were when they were their some people being thrown at their sideline and their coaching staff and players.
yeah, not just at the players on the field, but on the sidelines as well. They were. I don't. I can't really recall if any of the bottles or material that the fans have thrown were able to get that far to the sidelines, but I'm pretty sure that is a well-known fact. So if I'm wrong on that, I apologize in
Mhm.
advance. Yeah, it's disappointing for sure. It sucks to see you know your team having a shot just to go out like that and just to say, oh, what if this, what if that, and as if you can put it lightly, it is what it is, but at the same time, it's really not.
And getting back to Carmen and Al, they would apologize the next day. and it's not going to justify what they did day before, but they realized that they were wrong what they said, and they knew action would be taken. And St. Paul Tiger Blues, he's reviewing this as back in his office, and I did read that at least 10 Browns fans were arrested for that, and then several others were banned from the stadium for 4 seasons. The action was taken, albeit we would have to wait a while before that would take place. I guess 2001, and then the games is to be played the following night.
Yeah, that's something that I forgot to put in my notes here, but that's a good segue to lead off of heading to our next story, Amir, where we talk about another Bottlegate situation with another team, but that's coming up next on Doubleheader. You're listening to Doubleheader. Be sure to like and subscribe.
All right, so we're back, and second half of our doubleheader, which as you can tell, balls 2001 St. Louis Rams, and before we begin, know anything about the 2001 St. Louis Rams, Keenan?
Um, let's see. I do not, but I do know from doing a little bit of research this morning before we logged on today. There's going to be some familiar faces uh, throughout this presentation.
Yes, there is, and you recognize one familiar face, the guy wearing number 13 right here in the left-hand corner.
Oh, is that Kurt Warner there on the left?
That's correct. Yep, he was the quarterback of the 2001 Rams team, who by this point becomes greatest show on turf, led by the mentioned Warner, Marshall Falk, Azahir Hakeem, Corey Holt, and Isaac Bruce. Last 2 seasons they led the NFL in scoring, one of which in '99 was their Super Bowl season. They,
Hmm.
yep, so '99 came out of nowhere, went from 4-12 to 13-3 Super Bowl champions. 2000, they would drop off, won 10 games, still made the playoffs. But so same crew. And in 2001, got to a very good start. They're 11-2 going into December, or I mean 10-2 going into December. Lost 2 games, one to the Bucks, which was on a Monday night, and to the New Orleans Saints. That into the New Orleans Saints, which was capped off by this play right here.
Okay. Amir, feel free to explain because I'm having a tough time at the moment.
Well, as you heard by that soundbite, the Rams unfortunately lost to the Saints in the wild card round, where they turned the ball over 6 times. The last coming when they were about to receive the ball, down by 3, and Azahir Hakeem fumbled the punt, and Mark Mila, the Saints, recovered the ball, securing the Saints' first ever franchise victory in the postseason. And as I say that, Saints have had the number of late, winning 3 of the last 4 games, including the mentioned wild card game in December 2000. Speaking of the Saints, we did an episode on the Saints not too long ago.
Yeah, that's correct, and I'll put it in the upper right hand screen of your. I'll put the card in the upper right hand corner of your screen now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here's the Saints. So of course, coming off their first ever playoff win in franchise history, going to 2000 and NFC West champions. And yes, you heard that right, NFC West, because there was no NFC South back in 2001. So the Saints, Panthers, and Falcons were the same as in the Rams and 49ers. And then so getting back to the Saints, they got to a very good start. They're 7-5 going into December. And of course, once again, they beat the Rams earlier that year in the comfort round victory, coming from a 24-6 deficit to win 34-31 in overtime. And speaking of more good news for the Saints, I point out this game in between the Bears and Buccaneers because the Bears beat them 27-3, and Tampa dropped 7-6, and they faced the Buccaneers a few days after their game against the Rams on Monday night. And speaking of Monday Night Football, this will be their first time hosting the big game in 7 years when they played the Cowboys in late December of '94, which was highlighted by that Larry Allen tackle of the Saints linebacker, which is the same in a 24-16 win by the Dallas Cowboys. So, having said all of that, what are your predictions for this game between the Rams and Saints on Monday night?
Um, I believe that the New Orleans Saints versus Rams on Monday night is going to be a score of 27-21. New Orleans uh gets finds the way to win.
Uh, Not a bad prediction. I think the Rams can pull it off as long as they don't turn the ball over. Because I know even despite their 10-2 record, they are leading the NFL in giveaways, which is very concerning as you enter the playoffs. And I also
Yeah,
want to,
absolutely.
yeah, and I want everyone to keep note of that as well. Sorry, I mean, talk over you.
Yeah,
So,
no worries.
so yeah, that's something to keep note. So first half, I see two familiar faces here. Toby Goen and Joe Horn. First, we got to start up with this man right here, Terrell Smith.
He does sound familiar, to be honest with you. Now that you bring him up.
Well, Terrell Smith was a fullback for the Saints in 2001. Of course, fullbacks, they don't touch the ball a lot, but scores his first touchdown in a long time, get the Saints a 7-0 lead. So, hey, Saints fans, that's a good start, right?
Right.
But then after they do that, they decide to go onside kicks because they figure, you know what, we want to keep the Rams off the field. Let's try that. But unfortunately, it doesn't work out because the Rams recover, and that's when they get a short field, take advantage of it, and that's when our man, this guy here, finds the end zone for the first time in his Monday night career. Isaac Bruce 6 yards out in the first quarter, so it's all tied up at 7.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew a Rams player was gonna play a big part in this story.
Well, he did, and yeah, but fortunately, that will be the last they see of Mr. Bruce because he will get in the end zone again in the second quarter, scoring an 11-yard touchdown reception. So give the Rams the lead. Then the Rams catch a break when Hakeem unfortunately fumbles the ball, another punt, and that sets up this touchdown by Joe Horn from 28 or 6 yards out, tie the game at 14 late in the second quarter. So okay, so far so good. But and then there's the muff punt right there. Then there's still a little time left in the game, and to say Kurt Warner finds another Rams receiver, Mr. Marshall Falk, and wide open too from 4 yards out. So Rams have a 21-14 lead going to halftime, and so it's not things are going well for the Rams and Saints. It's like Saints fans a bit restless.
Mm, yeah, a bit restless indeed. And I'm doing some quick research on the Marshall Falk. Uh, played for the Indianapolis Colts and St. Louis Rams. So that's another person I'm familiar with.
And a matter of fact, he's up and he's in his hometown in New Orleans.
How about that? So without further ado, what's next?
Well, it's halftime, and if I'm the Rams, I'd be saying we had to lead at halftime against these guys back in October, so we can't relax. And for the Saints, you say so. Well, we're down, but we got one half to play, and we can beat these guys. We've done it the last 4 times.
Yeah.
So, what are your halftime predictions for the Saints and the Rams, Keenan?
Um. Well, I did say 27-21. Saints.
Oh, yes, you know, yep.
Okay, so I still think. Um, and what's the score of halftime?
21-14 St. Louis.
Oh, okay. So I was pretty close. I'm still pretty close to my prediction, but I still think the Saints can find a way to pull this out. So that's my only prediction.
All right, well, let's see if we're right. Well, Saints get the ball first possession in the second half. Everything's looking good until this guy, Mr. Grant Wistrom, picks off an Aaron Brooks pass, and that's against Isaac Bruce's third touchdown in the game from 40 yards out to give him the hat trick. And coming into this game, he had never scored a touchdown on Monday Night Football.
Wow, what an interesting accomplishment there. So
Yeah, 'cause they played 4 games prior to this one, the Rams and Isaac. Prior to that, they weren't a good team. Prior to '99, they were not a good team, so they didn't get a chance to appear in Monday Night Football, and Isaac held out the end zone the 4 previous meetings, but made up for lost time, and he finished the night with 5 catches for 86 yards and the hat trick. So again, ladder, which put the Saints up, the Rams up 20-14. But, the Saints, they regroup, march back down the field, and Mr. Brooks connects with the familiar face. Recognize him?
really, uh, no, I do not. I'm still thinking of Jimmy Graham, who also wears 88, right?
Oh, yeah, Yeah, he does. They did wear the same number 88, Jimmy Graham, but remember Mr. Jackson scoring that his big game against the Giants a few months prior?
Um, what a few months prior when?
When he scored the touchdown against the Giants, and then, well, thought he scored the game tying touchdown against the Giants, but then he got called back due to a penalty.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. I think I remember that.
Yep. Luckily for Mr. Jackson, this touchdown will stand so he can celebrate, and it'll bring the Saints back in within 7, so 20-21. So, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, sorry to interrupt, but that was what we didn't we talk about that before in a previous episode?
Yes, that is correct.
That's right. That's right. Now it's starting to come back to me. Okay, now I
Hmm.
remember. Yep. Okay, continue. Yep.
Yep, and getting back to Mars Fault, we also talked about him in our first episode. So we'll leave links to some down below for their episodes. And when getting back to this game, Mr. Sammy Knight, who you saw earlier, he's the one who changed the tide in the game at St. Louis back in October. And in the Rams' soon possession, he makes another game-changing play and starts Ernie Conwell as his Rams were about to we're inside at the Saints 6 yard line. So again, Saints, now's the time to take over the game. But unfortunately, they did not take advantage of it. So that was all for naught.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a bummer. And then the Rams were able to dodge a bullet there and regroup, get and their next possession. Jeff Wilkins kicks a field goal to extend their lead to 31-21 early in the fourth quarter. And so that's not looking too good for the home crowd. However, they 10. It's not like 10 points is not that hard to come back from, right?
To my knowledge, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So.
All right. Well, fortunately, the Rams Saints don't really do much on their soon possession, so the Rams have a chance to really put the game away in their next possession. So they get to the 15-yard line, and that's where things get interesting. So I'm going to show you a clip from the game, and I want you to determine whether or not it's interference or not.
First down to the 15-yard line. Pump fake, Warner to the end zone, and there's a flag because Kevin Mathis was clearly holding on to hold.
Defensive pass interference. Number 23.
And now you have, well, you've got a Cleveland kind of scene here. You got all this stuff being thrown out of, oh, look at this.
First down, Rams have a 15-yard line. Warner drops back. tries to find Isaac Torrey Holt, but unfortunately Kevin Mathis is holding him, so pass interference. Therefore, Larry Nevers throws a flag. But right as he's about to make the announcement, fans start throwing stuff onto the field.
Oh boy.
Yep, so here's the flag, and we get this.
All tied up at 21 apiece. There's a flag and a full, or at least a like a fluid beer bottle on the field.
Yep, several beer balls on the field, and fortunately, we're getting flashbacks to a game in Cleveland from Sunday.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because as Nemers is about to announce the penalty, that's when they started to throw the balls on the field, and also there are a lot of boos. And as you can see, like here, there's security at the Superdome. They had to clear the field. The balls were in the end zone. And also in the midst of this, Mr. Hazlitt, who you see here, he unfortunately had a conversation with the referees, and that resulted in a sportsmanlike conduct penalty, which will also moved the ball forward for the Rams. So a lot of confusion going on, but luckily, Nemers and his crew were able to, and Saints security were able to restore order in the Superdome. So no game stop, no, it won't be a 20-minute delay here at the Superdome. And getting at to that, but just I know Dan Fouts said it himself when during the midst of this, what happened in Cleveland was such a disgrace, and this is too, because as we saw in that game, missing while they were throwing the object towards the referees. Fortunately, they're also throwing the bottles and objects at the players and the coaches, which will endanger their lives.
Yeah, yeah. Keep putting people's lives in danger like that is not a good thing.
No, it isn't. And unfortunately, it's briefly stopped the game. Luckily, like I said, it wasn't a 20-minute delay. They were restore order, but and they were frustrated with the team's performance, but there's just no excuse for what they did. So having said all that, brief delay. Here's our guys: Al, Dan, Dennis, Eric Dickerson, and Melissa Stark. They're at the game, and of course, Mal Michaels even mentioned that there's going to be some repercussions for the fans as well. So having said all that, Rams couldn't punch in the end zone, so Saints defense held them out of the end zone. So it's 34-21. So still little time left. Saints can respond and come back from these guys, right?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Dre Bly, as the Saints are about to cut the lead, intercepted the Brooks pass, and that pretty much all she wrote for them. So Rams win the game, and they go 11-2. Saints fall to 7-6. So unfortunately for the Saints, that's losing the game is the last thing on their mind, though. They're thinking the safety of a lot of their fans are going to be under investigation.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I'm glad they were able to restore order pretty quickly, unlike the Cleveland Bottlegate that happened.
Correct. As for the Rams, they would win the rest of their game, finish the year 14-2, win the NFC, but unfortunately, they would return to the Super Bowl a few months later, where they would lose to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, 20-17, and then their season ended on a disappointing note.
Yeah, very disappointing.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, they despite their 14-2 record, they unfortunately had some turnover problems throughout the season and in this game. They did lose 2 fumbles, They would end up leading the NFL in giveaways with 44 turnovers.
Wow, 44 turnovers.
Yep. That's for a team that won 14 games.
Wow, that seems kind of high, right?
It is, and then and Kurt Warner, who would end up winning MVP that year, he led the league in NFL with passing 830 yards, 36 touchdowns. Also led the NFL. He also threw 22 interceptions that season, which is pretty
Dang.
high for a guy
Wow.
to win MVP honors. Yeah,
Woo.
that's pretty high.
Yeah, definitely. With with those numbers, man, being able to do pretty well with that team, that's pretty impressive. That's all. That's the only word I can think of. Impressive.
Yeah, it was. I didn't even. I never watching the Rams video, looking down in the comments one day on YouTube, and they said he led them. Well, threw like 22 interceptions. Like, didn't he make an MVP that year? And sure enough, he did. But like, man, I didn't know he threw that many interceptions because when league MVP, you're not for a quarterback. Nowadays, they're not going to be throwing double digit interceptions, or at least
Yeah, yeah.
20
That's
plus.
what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to the Saints. So, of course, back in the day when your team would host the Super Bowl, odds are they wouldn't even make the playoffs. The year before, Bucks were able to debunk that trend by making it, but they didn't make the Super Bowl that year. Yeah, we're a little bit 20 years away from that. So, as for the Saints, yeah, they never recovered from that loss on Monday night, and they ended up dropping their last 4 games to finish 7-9 and out of the playoffs.
That's that's tough. That's really tough. Just to fall down like that.
Yeah, and in their last 3 games following their loss to the Rams, they were outscored like let's see, it was like 10. See, they got lost 48-21 to the Bucks a few days later, 40-10 to Washington, which is pictured here, and then they got shut out by 49ers 35-0. So they scored a grand total of 31 points over the next 3 games.
Dang, that's a lot.
Yeah, so and unfortunately, late December slumps would be unfortunately a recurring theme in the Hazlitt Brooks era from here on out. So they would be in contention the next 3 seasons, but just couldn't put it all together in December. And then by '05, everything just wheels came completely off when they only won 3 games. As for this, there's going to be some repercussions for Saints fans. What do you think's going to happen to them?
Uh, definitely some court cases going on. Maybe some penalties of fines that they have to pay.
On the right track. So I'm going to read out some numbers for you. So as a result of that disturbance at the Superdome, that I mentioned earlier in our intro, plastic beer bottles. Excuse me. So excuse me. I should start off. So we had 13 fans went to jail, 15 fans were ejected, and also in the Saints were also flagged 16 times for 132 yards and penalties. So I can show you this numbers right here.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. For NFL football game, that's for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely people are spending the night in jail, and unfortunately, 15 were ejected for this is for disorderly conduct or unruly behavior. As for beer bottles, or you want to purchase any alcoholic beverages at the Superdome, well, at halftime, can't do it. So no more beer. And in third quarter for anywhere else, nope, not. You go to the concession stand saying no more alcohol of any kind after the third quarter.
I say that's a good rule. You know.
I would agree
The,
because I used to work
the
concession
fans.
stands back in the day.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And yep, just to keep the fans in line for sure, and that just to make sure to keep everybody around you safe as well.
Definitely. And of course, after we saw happen in Cleveland the day before, and the events of this game, Paul Tagliabue said we're not no more glass bottles at any sporting events because it did. Because glass bottles that can flip a lot of damage. Because look what happened with Butch Davis the day before. He sustained a cut to his leg.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of bizarre to me that this happened the next day too. Like not a week, not a not month, but the next day, folks. Wow.
Yeah, because I remember. Yeah, because this Bottlegate doesn't get mentioned as often, because it was the one day before. But I remember looking this up one day on the internet, and I said, "When did this happen?" And it said one day after the Browns Jags game. I was like, "Oh wow!" So yeah, I
Yeah,
said I
that's
knew by.
something that yeah, that's something that I didn't know as well. But yeah, that's interesting. But continue.
Yeah, that's something I did. Yeah, that was something I said. So we got this would be make for a good episode in the future when I looked this up several years ago. But yeah, it just goes to show you, and we're recording this on opening day of the 2024 season. And we as fans, it's frustrating when our team doesn't perform up to par. We'll boo, we'll jeer, we'll rant about it, but it's not worth like destruction of property or losing your season tickets or someone getting hurt.
Yeah, 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 and plus you already paid thousands of dollars, um, you know, getting your ticket and season tickets if I might add, if you want to pay a little bit more is what I'm trying to say for the $1,000 thing, but or at least a couple hundred. I don't know how much season tickets cost nowadays because I'm not a season ticket holder of any team at this time, but I do buy the standard admission off of the main ticket website that teams use. So
Yeah, and then before we wrap it up, I know what the players and coaches didn't find a lot of them, but I do know Sammy Knight and Jim Haslett said it the best with Knight saying you hate to see something happen it shouldn't happen. As for Haslett, he said, I think fans were unacceptable with what they did. It looked like the dome. He did praise the dome security and the police for acting quickly and putting it out fast because that could have gone things could have gotten out of hand real quickly, but they didn't.
yeah, and it's like I said earlier, I'm just happy that they were able to restore order of getting the players, getting the fans under control, and just to see something like this happen again for the second straight day is unacceptable. That's the only way I can picture that. Or 'cause I was only 3.5, 4 years old at the time of this game, and I wasn't really familiar with NFL quite yet. But man, just to see the two similarities between the Browns and the Saints game is can be sort of like a night and day difference in a way. That's the best way I can describe that.
Yeah, and it's great because the Saints game took place at night. Browns game took place during the afternoon, and then when we go to the NFL games, it's supposed to be an exciting experience to get a chance to see the game in person, and you don't want to. You see instances like that, it takes the fun out of the game because people's your life's and safety's at risk, and it's just and you might lose your privilege to not only attend NFL games but also any events at that stadium. And I would know that once again. I used to work at Bank of America Stadium, and they tell us all the time how many fans would be ejected like within the first few minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for people too that don't people. how do I say this? Like people don't have the opportunity to go to many games as other people can go to games at the next, and they have an opportunity to try to enjoy the experience and try to enjoy themselves.
Correct. And but then again, of course, they did crack down on this. I know it hasn't been perfect. There are several other unruly fan behavior occurrences, not just NFL games, but hockey, baseball, basketball games since then. But I will say Paul Tagliabue made the right call by saying no more alcohol being sold at during after the third quarter, no more glass bottles being sold at stadiums. And Superdome took one step further, saying, you know what, at halftime, all alcohol sales will cease.
Exactly, and I know with NASCAR as well, fans would get in trouble for climbing the fence, and they would have to be escorted by security or tell them to get down, and 'cause they can get extremely hurt as well with race cars going by at that rate of speed, and I'm like, what are you thinking? And I've seen it in real time at a race at a race at the Charlotte Mostly where this guy was trying to attempt to climb the fence, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, yeah, NASCAR as well has had some fan disturbances, and it's just again supposed to be. I get you want to meet. It's cool to see your favorite players in person and coaches. That things don't work out the way you want to. I don't know room for the Panthers, Colton Browns. I know I admit I've lost my temper with them several times. But again, it's just not worth paying the money or losing your privileges because you lost your temper.
Yep, I'll admit that too about the Panthers and NASCAR as well, where my favorite team or driver messes up, has a bad day, loses, and like you said, there's nothing. You just can't get frustrated out of those circumstances, like you said, Amir. And so, yeah, very interesting episode indeed. For sure, a bit of a longer one than it has been the last few weeks, but hey, I'm cool with that. So, Amir, what are your thoughts? Any final thoughts or anything else before we sign off?
Well, yeah, just I know outside some few some difficulties, interruptions, but that fortunately happens. Having said all that, I will say again, just one episode I was looking forward to doing. Cause I never written about it, seen footage of it, and just getting to see it, some familiar faces and places and all that stuff, and even get a chance to show up to memorabilia from that game. Having said all that, just the season's here, the NFL week one, and we had two games already played, and then afternoon games will be kicking off shortly. So I wish everyone who's there watching at home and in the stadium or on the radio enjoy it. Just keep it cool, and best luck to all your teams out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And new faces and new places was what you were trying to say earlier. I was trying to
Yeah,
figure out.
because new. Mhm, that's
Yep,
right.
new faces and new places. But yeah, folks, if you like what you see, feel free to give us a like, subscribe down below for more. And if you want to follow us on our social media page on Instagram at Doubleheader, Spotify, Doubleheader as well. Uh, feel free to do that, and feel free to check out our website for more information. And until next time, this has been Doubleheader with Amir Daniels, Keenan Costain, and we'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye, folks.
See you on the next episode.